Hello and very warm welcome at your laptops, TVs, or wherever you are. Today we do have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Phil Cooper, the Chief Revenue Officer of Talentnet, a pioneer leader in the direct sourcing and talent community space. Talentnet has revolutionized the way organizations access, engage with top talent by empowering them to build, manage their own curated talent pools. In this conversation, we will dive into how Talentnet differentiates itself in the competitive HR technology landscape, the evolving needs of clients in talent acquisitions, and how Phil envisions the future of work in direct sourcing. Welcome, Phil Cooper. Thanks for the long trip from the United States to Germany. And may we start with a quick introduction? May you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Frank, and appreciate the invitation here at Waldorf, Germany. It was a great trip and excited to be here at SAP's headquarters. Just a little bit about myself. I've been in the workforce contingent labor space for about 27 years. I'm aging myself now. Started in the agency world, progressed into a global MSP, managed business from the MSP and RPO perspective, both in the US and in Europe. And now more recently, over the last 7 years, joined Talentnet, and excited that I'm the global CRO for the Talentnet platform. We've been in the direct source technology space for about 10 years and really started to enable clients really over the last 7 or 8 years on a direct source journey. And hopefully we'll get into that a little bit today as it relates to what we believe direct sourcing is as a company, and ultimately how Talentnet supports that from a technology perspective.
Very interesting, and again, thanks for being here after a long ride. For those unfamiliar at their laptops at home or in the office, could you also explain a little bit what direct sourcing is and how Talentnet plays a pivotal role in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of different dialogue and information currently around what direct sourcing is. From our perspective, at its purest form, direct sourcing is the ability to use a client's brand to attract and build talent pools of candidates that can now and in future apply for contingent labor jobs. Having direct control on that access to talent is where clients have want the space to go. If you think about the traditional recruitment methods and methodologies around contingent labor, create a requisition, get approval for it, send it out to a supply chain, have them respond in their own time on candidates, and ultimately pick a candidate that they supply. In direct sourcing, we see that completely different. The opportunity to, again, create a requisition, but create a talent pool using the brand so you can dip into that pool and access that talent at any given time. If you think about really full-time hiring, FTE hiring, very rarely does a client go out to an agency or a headhunter initially to find the candidate they're looking for. And we look at that the same vein from a direct sourcing standpoint. Use your own network, your own curated talent pool, find the right candidate in a suitable time frame, supply that to the hiring leader, and let them pick the appropriate candidate. Obviously, if that doesn't work in the time frame allotted, certainly, agencies and third-party recruitment companies would still be there on your vendors list and your PSL. So for us, Talentnet's built a technology platform to integrate with SAP Fieldglass and also provide the foundation for the efficiencies for that to happen.
That is interesting. And how would Talentnet help companies to optimize their talent acquisitions and the direct sourcing?
Really, the benefits far outweigh the cost associated to the inputting of the technology and ultimately the services side of the business. I think it's important to throw out a stat that if you invest in a direct source program, after the first or second year, you actually could be filling 70% plus of your requisitions in the contingent space from your direct talent pool.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot, and it has grown significantly to, reduce suppliers, reduce vendors that you've relied on in the past, but also more importantly, as a procurement specialist or an HR specialist in the space, having direct access to that talent stream. And for me, the delivery aspect is critical in making that work. But again, that stat of 70% of roles from that community really signifies the benefit that you as a client could receive from a direct sourcing model.
Mm-hmm. So given the volatility of recent years, how has Talentnet adapted to meet shifting workforce demands?
Well, I think we've all seen it, Frank, over the last few years. Certainly the pandemic changed dramatically the shift in the workforce, from every aspect. It became a candidate-driven marketplace. Certainly remote work became the norm. I think some of that is changing and adopting back to in office or in-person jobs. You look at the shortage of labor that I think, again, the pandemic really highlighted in the economy globally. Skills-based work became much more important. It was very apparent that, again, not to overemphasize what the pandemic did from a talent perspective, but companies needed more skills-based work. And as the opportunity to bring on more consultants, more contract labor, we, from a Talentnet perspective and SAP Fieldglass, have the ability to simplify the experience. We look at a number of factors to really dive into why an effective direct source model can adhere to some of those changes. Number one, the candidate experience, as I mentioned. How candidates find roles, how they engage in roles, how they apply for roles. Yeah. All of that needs to be streamlined and very simple. Talentnet has a one-click apply button that allows candidates, if they're matched to a position, to apply to those jobs. The second is the expansion of the technology platform. Again, with SAP Fieldglass and Talentnet, the integration points that we have enable the candidate and the hiring leader to have a simple engagement process around the interviewing and hiring. The three is the ability to provide a client with a known talent pool. It's talked about a lot in the industry about known workers and bringing them back on assignment, and having the ability to access those known workers very quickly is imperative. The work that we've been doing collectively with what we're calling Talent Bridge gives a population of already vetted and certified workers the access to positions and clients specifically. And the last, and I think it underpins everything, is compliance. There isn't a day that goes by without people talking about the protection of data, PII, and how that information is stored and controlled. And again, we've spent a lot of time focused on making sure we've got the right level of certifications, and we're adhering to the standards to protect both the clients and the candidates alike.
Mm-hmm. And could you share an example of how Talentnet helped a client navigate these challenges?
Yeah, I think there's a couple actually, Frank. As we look at it, we've had a client in the finance sector. The first and foremost is kind of the use of the best practice of direct sourcing when we looked at this client, which is the use of brand. A great direct source program has the ability to use the client's brand, market that specifically in the industry and in the marketplace, and attract candidates directly to that brand. And so, in this case, our client didn't have the greatest brand as it related to attracting candidates. It wasn't a destination place for good top talent to at least look at. So working closely with that client on their EVP for contingent labor resources, making sure those jobs are marketed to the right job boards, their careers page is set up appropriately with the link to the talent community, enabled the right demographic and the right skill sets to look at those positions. Mm-hmm. The second one would be we've got a research company client of ours that was looking really at job titles as the catalyst behind attracting candidates. And again, in the skills-based market that we live in, that wasn't necessarily the right approach. So using job titles and descriptions, removing barriers of entry for candidates to apply to these positions, really created a wider pool of population and allowed their talent access to grow specifically. With Talentnet, we use AI to match those candidates to those specific jobs, and again produce those high matched candidates back to the hiring leader. we've built some AI into our technology also that allows for the job description to be optimized, which again looks at skills-based competencies and different things other than just specific requirements.
Yeah.
The last example, we have a professional services company collectively as a client who is looking and has expanded globally, and I'll talk about this a little bit later on. But legislation and government around these different data centers that they're looking to create provides a challenge in each country, whether that's the implementation of a direct source program to the compliance of what that country requires. All of those things have to be taken into consideration when you look at a global company such as what we have. So again, the nuances of each country is very specific.
Understand. And how does Talentnet's focus on skill-based hiring enhance the direct sourcing process?
Yeah, I think we've always been, focused on the skills-based process of hiring contingent labor. A lot of companies want contingent labor experts to have certain skills. If you look at our relationship, we've probably put out, over 50,000 different job postings for different clients around the world. That's a lot, and they're looking for highly skilled positions. Contingent labor is growing. I was at SAP Connect last week, and they talked a lot about how procurement's role managing contingent labor is much more prevalent in an organization. Yeah. There's much more light highlighted on the procurement path around the management of the category of spend, which is contingent labor. And so that significantly grows. And as you look at that from our perspective, it's about eliminating some of the barriers so you can widen the talent pool, use AI to match the skills specifically, enhance the right candidates to the right positions, and look at their profile creation, not just their CV or resume. We use a parsing technique where it breaks the resume down into different sub-skills and then ultimately provides the matching criteria for the hiring leader. So it's just opening up a diverse workforce and a potential pool of candidates that a lot of these companies hadn't looked at in the past.
Yeah, understand. And why is this approach crucial in today's market? I mean, in market dynamics like, we are going to face economy-wise, you talked about the pandemic situation already. Why do you think, it is crucial to, embed talent pools in a regular VMS solution such as Fieldglass?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's important that the procurement and HR groups that handle contingent labor have direct access to their talent. Yeah. For me, it's really interesting. We've had LinkedIn for many, many years. It's the largest public talent pool there is in the world. All recruitment companies access it. A lot of us put updates and a progression of careers on LinkedIn. And so, to hire and recruit people, LinkedIn has always been a number one avenue to do that. So think about that as your own company. Why wouldn't you have your own personal LinkedIn? Why wouldn't you create that of candidates that are not only have maybe worked for you in the past, but want to come and work for you in the future? And they're actually interested in what you've got to offer as an organization. So capturing these candidates for repeatable roles and future roles is absolutely critical. I mentioned Talent Bridge. Us being able to index vetted and certified workers back into the talent pool so the hiring leader knows exactly that the candidate that they're looking at has finished a very successful assignment in the past, and ultimately will be a great hire in the future. So these branded communities allow for customers to build that, and the way we've got it structured from our candidate experience community to our delivery side on Talent Bench, that efficiency allows all of that to kind of come to fruition.
And I think it's also complicated to, if you have such a talent pool, to run it and keep it up to date, get in touch with the talents. So that is also, I think a kind of tricky for companies to run their own pool internally with internal resources and also external. But as talent pools are in a critical so-called environment in the hemisphere of direct sourcing strategies. How does Talentnet help companies to build and maintain really, not just the CVs, but all these pools to keep it up to date, let me say?
Yeah, I mean, you've hit on such a critical aspect, Frank. The maintaining and curation and recruitment of these pools really is a critical aspect behind the success of them. Again, if I look at our partnership, we've probably got 800,000 to 900,000 candidates in our collective client pools across the globe. And it takes a very strong internal or external curator, recruiter, administrator of the pool to keep the nurturing of those candidates real. Without that, I think you see failure, and we've seen some failure in our industry as it relates to direct sourcing because that component hasn't necessarily happened. And it's done in different ways. It could be an internal team doing that. It could be an external curation recruitment team doing that. Some of the suppliers, the agencies that ultimately have delivered solutions in the past to clients have now repurposed themselves as a curation, white-labeled company that represent the organization externally in the marketplace. And I think that builds momentum in keeping the pool alive, nurturing, etc. From a Talentnet perspective, obviously we do a lot of drip campaigns, feeding of jobs, notifications, and keeps the candidates very, very warm as it relates to engagement with that specific client. I think about an insurance company that we have that looked at a direct source program initially year one, just to look at periodic hiring that they had on a consistent basis. They wanted to bring back candidates they'd hired in the past. They knew exactly the time of year, the type of role, the pay rate of these candidates that they needed time after time. And historically, they'd go back to the recruitment agency and they would provide that candidate back on assignment for full markup and full rate. And they wanted to see a different way to do it. And direct sourcing fit that need. It was a technology-enabled solution that allowed the company to bring those candidates in and then ultimately engage them at the right time. And I think they saw their rehire of these candidates jump by about 35% in year one. So that, coupled with the cost-saving initiative that they had in place, allowed the procurement organization within the client to really receive the benefit of direct sourcing. That jumped tremendously in year two because they looked at it and said, there's an aha moment here, Frank. They said, why would I not do this for all of my contingent labor roles across the business? And so they expanded that to different areas, IT, finance, clerical, professional roles, which ultimately then picked up momentum, not only from a cost-saving perspective, but also from a rehire and fulfillment standpoint. So you look at that program today, 2, 3, 4 years on, I think it's 4 years in maturation now, their talent community is above 100,000 people in it. They're filling about 60% of all contingent roles through the talent community and saving about $30 million per year. So, again, the value there to the procurement group and ultimately the hiring leaders is tremendous.
That is a very good topic. I think even for our audience, let's cover the success a little bit more. You talked about the insurance company, also other branches, but can you give a specific or provide a specific, case study, maybe out of the regional markets, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, or Eastern Europe?
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned earlier, one of our collective clients on the professional services side was looking to build this model globally. They'd seen tremendous success in the U.S. The program had developed into a platform that ultimately was the first point of entry for all hiring from a contingent standpoint. And as the organization wanted to build and wants to build hubs of technologists and specialists around the world, direct sourcing and the growth of the talent community and talent pools in each region is vital. Now, what comes along with that is certainly a lot of discussion, debate. Certainly in countries such as France, where that is not the norm of recruitment, that is not the norm of delivering contingent labor. How contingent labor workers are employed is very, very different. And so all of that had to be discovered and understood. And ultimately, is the goal to fill all of those requisitions through direct sourcing or components? And therefore, what is the size of the business? And does the size of the business warrant the initiative behind it? So as we collectively looked at that, for us, it was an opportunity to say, okay, in France, Germany, Switzerland, Poland, these are opportunities. But maybe in other countries where the hiring community isn't so high, the effectiveness of using third-party recruitment agencies is probably more of a priority.
Yeah. I think, I would 100% agree that VMS solutions, especially Fieldglass and Talentnet, as we got this relationship already, and it's easy to switch you on. We will find you in our ecosystem at our website officially. And I think, that talent pools together with VMS solutions can create a lot of powerful, valuable for customers and workforce strategy. So how do you customers leverage both through Talentnet to drive better results in total?
Yeah, I mean, the integration between our two organizations has been iterated on so many times. Our first integration started 10 years ago. And it was a basic integration that allowed a requisition to be created, pushed into Talentnet, candidates to review those jobs, and ultimately candidates to be pushed back into SAP Fieldglass. So the hiring leader, again, is looking at one dashboard. For me, the system of truth is SAP Fieldglass for the hiring leader and the client. And so the integration needs to connect into that to give that seamless plan. I think about an energy company that we deployed 5 years ago. A lot of that was trial and error as it related to how the integration not only would work, but also how the benefits would be received. They were adapting to a changing business model, how they wanted to be perceived as an organization. They wanted to hire different skill sets. They wanted to market to different areas. And the direct source model that was put in play allowed them to do that. Again, the hiring leader worked and lived and did everything that they needed to do in SAP Fieldglass, but was connected into Talentnet with the candidates that were coming out and being sought after. Whether they were rehired candidates from before that fit the right skill set they were looking for moving forward, or whether it was the unknown talent that was attracted by their brand and on different job boards. And I think that allowed the company to start driving forward their talent community as a whole. And today they stand with 150,000 people in their community, of which those skill sets are vastly different from how they were 5 years ago. So that success, I think, is overall seen as a very positive endeavor by the organization.
For companies already using SAP Fieldglass, how do they start the process of implementing the Talentnet platform and streamlined talent acquisition?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it's the good news is we've done it multiple times for multiple clients collectively together. We've refined that process, which allows us now to really step into creating a blueprint before we even jump into implementation. So step one is our program readiness workshop. This really creates the path for our implementation teams to jump in and ultimately deliver the direct source program. It answers key questions. It sifts through all the minutiae of the detail and delivers exactly what the program ultimately is going to be responsible for. The second step is implementation. SAP Fieldglass and Talentnet have a collective methodology around implementation. We've iterated on that multiple times and work together very well to ensure that the client sees the best implementation process possible. And then the third step is go live. Usually implementation takes about 12 to 14 weeks depending on a number of different aspects. I think one of the biggest is the use of brand. It takes some time to get approval and get the right people involved. But about 14 weeks, and then our customer success team steps in and they take the client on the journey to ensure that KPIs and metrics that were decided upon in the readiness are met and tweaks to the program happen. These are qualified, experienced people that have a lot of tenure within the direct source space and know exactly which buttons to press and levers to pull based on how the program's performing. So for me, that's really the steps, and you know, new customers at that point can really realize the benefit of building their own talent pool.
Yeah.
They can seamlessly re-engage former workers. They can look at open positions and fill them from the talent community, and they can evolve that over time. And ensure that everything is contained within the SAP environment that they work in today.
And final question. So what will happen if a company is new to Talentnet? What would you recommend as their first step to do?
Well, absolutely engage us directly, both of our companies. You know, we've collectively got people that can at least show demos of the product. We've got a full end-to-end demo scenario set up where a client can view that.
Yeah.
And I think they can see how technology interacts and integrates as we've been talking about. Certainly come directly to me. My contact information is on talentnet.com, and we've got a lot of material also from a user perspective to review on the website. And request an in-person demo. I think, again, as you look at a direct source model, understanding how technology works to gain the efficiencies of these programs is absolutely critical. And we're also listed on the SAP App Store that allows SAP clients to attain the information that they might need.
Thank you very much, Phil. That was pretty much interesting. I think skill-based hiring and direct sourcing is the key for external workforce management currently. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it as I did. And if you need to have more information, please reach out. Phil's email address and mine are at this link. Thank you very much.
Thank you.